glory shone around upon FC Halifax town. Shaymen!
Welcome back to another edition of the Talking Shaymen podcast. This is episode 22. It's a slightly different one tonight. We're not just going to be previewing the game with Chesterfield fan. It's going to also be extended. We're going to be talking to South Stand loyal Ronan Brown about the atmosphere, the survey news. We'll then be talking about tactics with Shaymen Stats, who's already with us, and Rob Brown and Luke Ramsden as well. So, Shaymen Stats, how are you doing tonight?
Yeah, I'm fine. Obviously looking forward to the game tomorrow. Yeah, not doing too bad, just enjoying the weather. Although I've shut my curtains for this podcast, video cast.
It is going to be huge tomorrow. It's probably that break. It's the breaking point of the season now, and it is such an important game. There's a huge crowd expected. Hopefully, the Halifax fans can finally turn up for this game. We've brought on a Chesterfield tonight, Tom, who runs Spireiteswrites, a part of their channel that is on Spotify. So if there is any Chesterfield fans watching live or watching afterwards, I would suggest going to check them out. So before we get into that, let's look what happened last time between the two sides.
Welcome to the Technique Stadium. Welcome to the final league game of 2021. And welcome to the top of the table league clash. First half at Chesterfield in first place in the National League. They've got a chance, 11 points with them in second place in the National League. Walker's on the ball now. Chance for Wolverton, who shot well! And Matt Wolverton has given Halifax the lead. The 18th minute of the game, and the shot from Chesterfield. Headed away by Warren. Yes! Yackler! And equalised for Chesterfield! And the referee blows the final whistle here at the Technique Stadium. The scores where this afternoon will read that Chesterfield will remain top of the table.
So, Tom, welcome on to tonight's show. How are you doing?
Good evening. Yeah, not bad, thank you. It's we've been blessed, haven't we, with a very nice bank holiday weekend, it has to be said. I've been out earlier today having a coffee in the sun. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, all good. How about you, lads?
Yeah, yeah, I'm good. Talk us through Chesterfield's season then as a whole.
Oh, that's a question and a half, isn't it? Yeah, it's been a really, really up and down season, I think, from our point of view. Obviously, we were sort of flying high at the top of the league earlier on in the season under James Rowe. We've been plagued by injuries, I would say, for pretty much the whole season. Our player of the year last season was George Carline, and he's been out pretty much the whole year. I think he got a nasty kneecap break or something like that, which just kept him out. And then since then, it's sort of been trickling through. You know, midfield has been out a few weeks. But obviously, I'd say the big one, really, after James Rowe left, which I'll get onto in a minute, that's a story in and of itself, is Kelly Shamanga. Obviously, when you lose a striker who scored 20 goals, you're always going to struggle, aren't you, after that? Yeah, like I say, it's been up and down. And I think now, really, the focus for us is to try and get playoffs, I would say. Yeah. I was long got into it. We'll start falling away with it.
Yeah. It's quite interesting now. You see Chesterfield this season, their season, how you've said ups and downs. They started the season so strong, it was probably like Grimsby, Chesterfield, Halifax and Boreham Wood. And more or less every single side slipped down. We've been quite consistent, that second or third place. And I know when we were going to Chesterfield, although we got the point there, we were probably thinking, yeah, Chesterfield, they're probably going to win the league this season. They're way too good. I think it's going to be between us two. And then Stockport come out of nowhere and literally stormed the league ever since Dave Shannon has come in. And there's been a lot of problems surrounding Chesterfield, not just injuries. You've also had the managerial change due to circumstances that I don't really want to discuss, but they've been quite... I'm sure the viewers will want to hear that. But the viewers, Chesterfield this season, they have been quite inconsistent compared to the start of the season.
Definitely, yeah. I think probably our biggest Achilles heel all year, really. And I'd say it was the case even when Rowe was at the club. We concede a lot of late goals. It's been sort of the story of our season, really, where we've been like leading in the game with the last 10 minutes, and then we'll just do our best to throw it away with both hands, pretty much. There are a few. I think Bromley and Torquay come to mind, where I think we were winning 2-0 in both of them with like 10 minutes left, and we end up just conceding late goals to equal to draw in the end. Altrincham, another one. They just had a crazy last 10 minutes where they just I don't know where they got the second win from, but they were terrifying. Go and score 2 late goals. So like, been quite a few games like that, and you just think back, don't you? But it's always the case in football. Fine margins. You think back to those what ifs, don't you? And that's how it's felt for us. Really, it's been kind of a what if season.
I remember that Weymouth game that I watched. I think I watched it on the highlights of BT Sport between Chesterfield and Weymouth, and Chesterfield went 1-0 up. And then Cabango Tishamanga gets injured. A horrific challenge. I think a lot of people debate a little bit about how bad that challenge actually was. I don't know if a free kick was actually given for that challenge, but it was. It was quite, in my opinion, quite a poor challenge. And I think from a selfish point of view, other clubs were probably thinking, oh, yes, this is our opportunity now. Because I think from another angle of opposition, they probably see Chesterfield or they rely on Cabango Tishamanga because he scores so many goals for you. Like probably clubs might look at Halifax, for example, with Billy Waters. Teams may think we rely on Billy Waters. And when you see an injury like that, which is so horrific and it's so damaging for your season as a whole, it opens gaps for other teams. And what didn't help in that game was Weymouth went and equalised last minute, and then that was probably a downer on Chesterfield's season as a whole, wasn't it?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I wasn't actually at the game for my sins. A bit of a fair weather one for me, obviously. But now I was walking down the road. I can't remember what I was doing. But I was walking down the road listening to it on the radio, and you just heard like the sort of worry in the voice of the commentators when they were like, "Oh, and Cabango Tishamanga stayed down on the ground." And I was just thinking to myself, right there, that's the title. That's the title gone at that point, because he's that, like you say, he's that pivotal player to us. And I think there's not many teams in the division that cope with losing the top scorer in that manner. Really, it's been a really tough one. We've sort of just been plugging away since then. But I do think we've sort of lacked goals a little bit, which you'd expect. You would expect when you lose your top scorer.
Yeah, there are other goal scorers within Chesterfield, though, aren't they? There's Rowe, who plays up front for you. They signed that play from Yeovil Town. I'm just trying to think. Quigley, that's who they signed from Yeovil Town in January, and I think a lot of people were probably thinking, oh, Chesterfield are going to be a factor. I think Chesterfield fans were still holding out hope that Quigley and Rowe were going to start getting goals. And you start to think, when you rely on a striker like Tishamanga, is it a bit too much of a gamble if something like that does happen?
I know what you mean, to be fair. Yeah, with Danny Rowe, it's an interesting one. He's not actually played since about 10 games into the season because he's had an ongoing health condition. That's all we know. They've not actually revealed what it is, which I think is fair enough. If it's not an injury and it's like a health problem, it's probably fair if they want to keep it confidential, if you know what I mean. But yeah, I know what you mean. It's you sort of are putting quite a lot of your eggs in one basket, aren't you, when you've got one player scoring the majority of your goals. I think that's a fair comment. And I think obviously when a player like that gets injured, it's sort of a bit of a watershed moment. You've got to then think, how else can we win games? How can we get other players scoring goals? And obviously having a new manager just come in and everything like that, it's sort of been a bit of a reset, if you know what I mean. He's trying to get his formation, his style of play in with the players, and then we've got some players coming back from injury, some players still carrying knocks, so it's just all over the place at the minute. I'm hoping that we'll settle down in the next few weeks, obviously going into the running and the playoffs, hopefully, if we make them, which you would hope we would at this point. But I'm kind of hoping we settle down a bit, if you know what I mean. But yeah, it's a tough one.
It's been an improvement, though, hasn't it, this season compared to previous seasons? You've had ownership issues in the past. How have you found it then since coming down to the National League now? Scunthorpe have obviously done it, and they're probably in for a long stay as well. Yeah. A lot of clubs now, like Chesterfield, like Notts County, they come down to this level and they do really struggle. Now, I remember when, I'm sure Shaymen Stats can help me out on this, but I remember when Chesterfield first came down to non-league, and they were looking like they could possibly get relegated that season when they first went down. I remember I actually went myself, I don't know if Shaymen Stats did, went to Chesterfield away, and we lost 1-0 in the last minute, and Scott Bowden scored, I believe, from the penalty spot.
Yeah.
Chesterfield were long out of the bottom four by then, though. When they come down the Shay, again, another game that are on BT, I think they were in the bottom four. It was the one where Denton scored, which he was always going to do during that game, you know. I mean, he's back. We haven't mentioned him. I think he's back for Chesterfield now. I don't know what's been happening with him either. He's just not been getting in or whatever. There's two things guaranteed to happen tomorrow. Jeff King's going to get booked, and Tom Denton's going to score. Everything else just will happen around that.
Yeah.
Basically, we're going to have to win by 2 goals at least if we're going to win the game. Yeah, Chesterfield had struggled really badly under Martin Allen, and then did he leave? Did they replace him with somebody else, or it just seemed to click and they managed to pull themselves out? But for a long time, it were like you may have even gone bottom. I can't remember. We were just sort of floating about in mid-table under Fullerton, I think.
Yeah, we sacked Martin Allen. I think it was after a 4-0 defeat at home against Solihull Moors, and the fans actually went onto the pitch. It was the Boxing Day game, and there was actually a fan protest on the pitch when the 4th goal went in. So you could sort of tell the anger that was at the club at that point. And obviously, the owners had been a little bit nonchalant, almost, I would say, about us dropping out of the Football League, and just really not very apologetic at all. And I think that was the sort of the game when things hit boiling point, really. And Martin Allen paid with his head in the end. I was a bit disappointed, really, because it seemed like a good appointment on the face of it when we first got Allen in. He won the league before, hadn't he, with Barnet? I believe it was 2015, I want to say. So it seemed like a good appointment, but it just never really clicked for him. I think it was probably his recruitment that let him down. To answer your question, overall, since we've been in non-league, I'd say I've got a lot more respect now for the National League and just non-league in general than I did beforehand. I'd say beforehand, it was a league I didn't really pay much attention to or really know a lot about. Obviously, when you drop down, you sort of learn that it's a much harder division than people actually give it credit for, isn't it?
It is one of them hidden leagues within the Football League system in England. You always think of the top 4 divisions. But some are saying that the 5th division should become part of the EFL now and become the 3rd division. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, we've said it quite a lot on our podcast, really, that I think it's only a matter of time before something like that happens. It's always the fully professional division now, isn't it? I think there's a couple of teams that are still part-time. I want to say Wealdstone are part-time still, aren't they?
Yeah,
And Altrincham, Maidenhead, I think, are as well. There's not many, though. I think the majority are full-time teams now. And I think there's the appetite there, really, for football at this level as well. I mean, if you just have to look at the average attendances, and I'm a bit of a geek in that regard. I was looking at them the other day, and they've massively gone up in the last 5-10 years for all teams, really. And, you've got a lot of historic teams down here, yourselves included, you've got quite a lot of Football League history, and there's a lot of teams like that. So I think it really is an attractive sort of league to watch for a neutral. And I can't really see many downsides to the EFL absorbing it at some point. So I think it'll happen.
Yeah, I want to talk a bit about attendance. You mentioned that, and you've seen Chesterfield's significantly increase since they've started to improve this season since COVID's happened. Same with Wrexham with the takeover. Notts Counties have just been the 6,000. Stockports have also increased. How do clubs do that? We know Chesterfield probably historically have always got good crowds where we've been 2,000, but we've really struggled to increase crowds this season. I think you probably know that. And as a neutral, it doesn't look good from looking at Halifax Town. You look at our position, we should be realistically be getting 3,000 in every single match. Are the initiatives that Chesterfield do to try and increase? I know when in the reverse fixture, I think they offered tickets out to NHS workers. Is there anything that Chesterfield do?
I'm not sure, really. I mean, I'm probably not the best person to ask about it, to be honest. But I think, initiatives like that can be good. I was looking at your pricing the other day, and it does seem like you charge quite a lot of money for young fans. And I think for any community club or any lower league club, really, I think the main thing you want to do probably is getting young fans on the cheap. Because if you can get them hooked at a young age, as sick as it sounds almost, if you get them addicted at a young age, then they're going to keep coming back. You've got a lifetime fan at that point, haven't you? So I think if it were me personally, that's what I would say. I'd say try and get as many young fans in, maybe give away tickets to schools. That's something that we've done a few times, quite often, to be honest. We go and give a couple of 100 tickets to school kids for free, basically. It's just little things like that I guess your club, I'm not sure how much they do. Do you really know a lot about that?
They're not really that proactive, but I know when we were in the Football League and I was in secondary school, they would actually give free tickets out, and I was the only kid that would pick them up because Leeds were in Europe, Bradford City were in the Premier League. It was only really Huddersfield struggling. Chesterfield are probably the second biggest club in Derbyshire after Derby County. I mean, Burton Albion, you know what I mean? We're surrounded by Bradford City offering £100 season tickets. Burnley's just over the hill are in the Premier League. Huddersfield, we're just surrounded by bigger clubs. Manchester's less than an hour on a train. I mean, we have a lot of competition for supporters, but we tend to shoot ourselves in the foot whenever we get a big occasion. We very rarely follow through.
Yeah. Something that interests me as well is you look at Huddersfield Town, who are very local to us. their tickets are actually cheaper than Halifax Town, and they also have initiatives with that. Standard, if there are any Huddersfield fans watching, their tickets are probably £16, £17, and then every so often they might do football for £5. Or I know that's something that Altrincham introduced, and they got over 3,000 in for their game. That could be something that potentially Halifax Town could possibly do, and it's good to see that other sides, though, like your Chesterfields, are getting good crowds this season with the improvement. And yeah, how has it been at Chesterfield this season regarding crowds and atmosphere?
Yeah, it's been a good atmosphere, to be honest. I mean, I've been lucky enough. I've only probably been watching Chesterfield for about a decade now, and I've been lucky enough to see 2 title-winning seasons in League Two. And I would say that the atmosphere at some points this year has probably been about as good as it was then. Obviously, when you're going for promotion and you're winning most weeks, there's always going to be that sort of feel-good factor, isn't there? And before the whole James Road debacle happened, it did feel like the club had a really close sense of unity as well. Everyone loved James Road before, what happened. And like you said, we won't go into that. It's probably not. But yeah, there was a big sense of unity around the club. I think when he left, there was a lot of disappointment, but also sort of the feeling of, right, we now need to rally behind the players because, there's still a decent chance of going up this year. So I think, I don't know, I think that the unity at the club's massive now. And you've got to give a lot of credit to our community trust who obviously own the club now for doing that. Because beforehand, like I said, there was a big divide between the ownership and the fan base. But that's sort of been bridged a lot now by the community trust. They're very open and transparent. And that's all you can really ask for from owners, really, isn't it?
Yeah. I think the one positive regarding attendances from our point of view is they haven't improved, although when we were like bottom of the league in the lower leagues, we were getting the exact same attendances, if not better. I think the one thing that has been pretty impressive from our perspective is the so-called local away days, like Chesterfield away, like Altrincham away. We are usually taking quite increasing attendances to places like that. I know Altrincham, from our perspective, 750 or so, which is probably a third of our average attendances, maybe a little bit less than that. A third of our average attendances are literally going to away games like Altrincham, like Chesterfield. And yeah, Chesterfield, they've been quite well supported away from home compared to previous seasons. I know one season, this was on BT Sport, they weren't doing well. They had, they were divided with the ownership, etc. They only brought about 350, I believe, to us.
I was there.
You're looking at them now, and they're going to be bringing possibly 2,000 to us, aren't they?
Yeah, and I think that is just the thing in football, isn't it? When you are doing well, the majority of your fans are going to want to go, especially for the local games. I mean, I've been to Halifax, I think, twice since we've been down here now, and both times it's been a really good day out. You've got plenty of good pubs nearby. I think usually we stop off in Leeds for 1 or 2 beforehand, and then we head over on the train. And it's always a good day out, a good away day. So, yeah, I think there's going to be a good crowd there tomorrow. And fingers crossed, you lot get in there and back your team as well. Because it's always nice when you get big gates, isn't it? Like you say.
Mm-hmm. That's something that interests me when I look at the crowds, etc. I remember the thing about Halifax fans is we take 10,000 plus to Wembley. The Chorley game at home in the playoffs, over 8,000 people were there. I'm hoping that tomorrow's going to be the day where the Halifax fans finally turn up and we can get potentially 3,000 Halifax fans in and 2,000 or so Chesterfield. Do you think you'll probably sell out?
I know that they've gone to pay on the day now, I think, with us. Yeah. So last I looked, I think we'd sold about 1,400, I think, something like that. I'm not sure on the exact figures, but I was approximately, I think it was that based on what you'd given us. I would have thought probably another couple hundred or so will pay on the day. So I'd have thought there'll be probably a bit over 1,500. I would have thought Chesterfield fans there tomorrow. So yeah,
that'd be you think of Chesterfield, and that's pretty impressive when you think it's on BT Sport as well. All 4 stands are going to be open tomorrow. That's something that, as a Halifax fan, I'm also really excited to see, because in my lifetime, I haven't particularly seen it too often where we've had 4 stands open.
Are they opening all 4? I didn't know that.
Yeah, they're going to be doing. Because
one thing that used to cap our attendances, Luke, actually, I've just jumped in. Especially when we're at this level, 5th division level, what seemed to happen conveniently with fixtures is any local games, York City, maybe your Chesterfields in the past, Carlisle's, they always seem to just be on a Tuesday night. They've done it with Grimsby this year. Yeah, it was really funny. Our games where we could get big gates were always on Tuesday nights. We never got a Saturday game. Like our Bancology fixture, instead of being Chesterfield or Stockport, would be like Altrincham at home, and Altrincham would bring like 300 or 400 max. We've always up until a few years ago, we've always had really poor bank holiday and like festive period fixtures to attract people.
Mm-hmm. It's a good opportunity, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Sorry, I was going to say that, and that is a bit frustrating, isn't it? Really, when they schedule a game for a bit of an awkward day or time, especially for away fans as well. If it's a Tuesday night at Halifax, I mean, not if it's a local game, then sure, you'll get your regulars who will go. But if it's not a regular game, if it's like Southend coming up, then they're not going to bring as many as they would on a Saturday. Because you'd have thought like Southend or something like that, I'd bring a good 700 or 800 on the Saturday. But you're probably lucky to get off that, aren't you? So
it's a not too distant past. Our festive double headers used to be Gateshead, and it's just not there because we were like the two most northern clubs. Then we had Harrogate for however many seasons, and again, just they're a small club.
Well, exactly, not a huge club.
That are being bankrolled by a billionaire. So
you know
what I mean? They didn't have the support.
Yeah, Go ahead. Something that we need to jump on. When you look at Harrogate, now their support's increasing since they've gone to the Football League. Now I want to talk a bit about Chesterfield and a bit more about Chesterfield's season as a whole. How did that managerial change affect you?
Initially, I thought we were doing a half-decent job of tiding things over. Obviously, we had that sort of period of a few games where Danny Webb, who was the assistant manager to James Rowe, took charge. And one of them was Stockport away, which you do really feel like you're going straight out of the frying pan into fire at that point, don't you? You lost your manager and now you've got to go and play against Stockport. It was a bit of a nervy game, really. We took a 2-0 lead. And then, essentially, I think we got Jeff King sent off, funnily enough, early in the second half, and then it was about 45 minutes of a Stockport barrage. They got like 2 goals in the first 10 minutes, and then we were just basically holding on. And I think that was kind of how it was after Rowe left. It's more been the sort of spirit of the players and just kind of like fighting for the shirt rather than it being really as tactical and as complete as it was before that took us to the top of the league. And then obviously Paul Cook coming in, like I said, he's trying to implement 4-2-3-1. I think that's his favoured formation, and he's more of a possession-based manager, I would say, than James Rowe, whereas Rowe's style was the high press. So we are changing style, we're changing formation. We did actually switch back in the win against Wealdstone to a 3 in the back. So I think Cook's realised that that's probably our better formation, really, with the players that we've got, because obviously it's what they used to play in. So I don't really know what you should expect is the thing I'm trying to Monday, because it could be that we'll switch back to a 3-5-2. It could be he tries to bring back the 4 again. I'm not sure. But what I will say is we're a lot more passing probably as a side than we were beforehand. So it might be a bit more of an expansive game. Who knows?
Is it a totally like a new dimensional team compared to that previous fixture? It'll probably be a different type of game because we are the home side. We're not going to Chesterfield. I know the reverse fixture, Chesterfield probably kept a bit more of the ball. Yeah. Is it going to be that sort of game where Chesterfield will probably come to the share and try keep the ball more?
I would have thought so, yeah, just because that's the way Paul Cook plays anyway. He's never really been the kind of manager who sets up to defend and play on the counter-attack, if you know what I mean. He likes to try and get his players in possession and dominating the game that way. Whether we can actually do that, I'm not sure, because I think the players... I'm not slagging off our players at all, because I think they've done a fantastic job all season, but I do think that they are taking some adapting, if you know what I mean, to the new style, which is natural, really. When you've been drilled for months to play one way and then you've got to play another one, all of a sudden it is tough. So I think that's what you'll see us try and do. Whether or not it backfires and you lot end up scoring 3-4 against us, I don't know. We'll see.
It looked like a good move at the time. It probably has come off slightly. It is hard to bring in any manager after someone like Danny Rowe, James Rowe, leaves the club. How has it been? How would you say it's been a success in some sort of way since he's come in?
Yeah, I mean, I think even getting Paul Cook to come to the club in the first place should have been seen as a massive coup, really. When he left us in 2015, he left to go to a team in the lower division, which we were all surprised about. But when you look at the fact that it was Portsmouth, you can sort of understand it because they are a massive club compared to Chesterfield. I was very angry back then. About 7 years ago, like angry that he'd left, but also you can understand it. A manager's always going to want to better their career kind of thing. So obviously, when he left Ipswich, it was a massive shock that his name was even being mentioned. And then when he came, obviously, it's a bit mental that he's decided to drop out of the Football League, and he's gone on record to say that he wouldn't have done it for any other club. It's kind of his love for Chesterfield from the last time he was here. That's why he wanted to come back to try and get the job done and see us back in the Football League kind of thing. So I think in that regard, massive success from the ball to get him back. And I think in the long run, it will pay off for us because I think if he has a whole summer and a whole transfer window to get his own players, his real team, if you know what I mean. But in the meantime, it's kind of just doing what we can. If we can go up this year, fantastic. If not, we know we've got one of the best managers in non-league probably for next season.
It is crucial that you bring in a manager that's got a close relationship with the fans. That's something that we'll know about. I remember Pete Wild being questioned for the Chesterfield job, and to be honest, those Halifax fans all knew, no, that's definitely not going to happen. Were you confident that was going to happen?
Yeah, he went on a interview, didn't he? He was like, I was never interested kind of thing. I was never going to leave. And do you know what? I respect that. I think he's done a fantastic job at you lot. I mean, no disrespect to you, but you challenging for promotion at the top of the division. It's a really, really good achievement, isn't it? And I think Pete Wild, he's got you playing some great football as well, some winning football. It's going to be a hard game tomorrow. I can see it being a really tough game for us. I don't think anyone can deny Halifax there on merit. Let's put it that way. And you've got some great players.
It's taken us on to that next stage now to try and get us back into the Football League, because that's something that realistically, I don't know about Shaymen's stats. He probably remembers times when Halifax were in the Football League, unlike me. But it's something that me personally, I'd love to see Halifax Town go back to the Football League because it's been so long. And it's been mostly positive since I've been a Halifax Town fan, apart from that relegation season. But hopefully this season we can finally get back to the Football League. But there's so many big clubs. There's not just Chesterfield. There's Stockport and Wrexham. How does your budget compare with like Wrexham's and Stockport's? At the start of the season, there were a lot of good recruitment, wasn't they? From Chesterfield's perspective, Tisha Manga, Jeff King, the list goes on. How does your recruitment compare with the likes of Wrexham and Stockport on a financial basis?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think Wrexham and Stockport, to be honest, are in a league of their own just because of the owners that they've got. They're both bankrolled, aren't they? I mean, obviously, the whole Wrexham takeover thing's a bit mental. I don't think anyone expected to see a Hollywood stars interested in non-league football. But I guess it's good in general for the profile of the league, you could say, in a way. But it's tough to compete, isn't it? As you guys well know, it's very hard to compete with teams that can splash £300,000 on Ollie Palmer or however much spent on Paul Mullin and Ventosa. The list goes on, doesn't it? All these big money signings. And I think the thing with Chesterfield is obviously we do have a half decent budget just by virtue of having a right size fan base kind of thing. And I guess at this level of football, we are kind of one of the big boys without being sound arrogant. But that doesn't always translate compared to teams that do have those owners who can just throw infinite money at it. And I think that's the real kicker in this division is that you've got 7 or 8, 9, probably even 10 teams that are all Football League sized, you would say, and they're all trying to spend big to get out of the division. It's a bit like a mini championship, isn't it? Where you just got everybody going for the sort of golden ticket back into the higher divisions. So yes, it's a tough one. But I think in terms of budgets, I'd say we're up there. I'd say we're probably top, let's say 4 or 5.
Yeah, similar to like Notts County, I'd probably say that similar sort of budget. But to be fair to Chesterfield, their recruitment at the start of the season was pretty impressive. They've got something that they did was they signed proven non-league players, something that Wrexham didn't particularly do. They looked at the higher leagues to try bring them down to the National League. Same with Stockport. Chesterfield were like snatching players from opposition's teams, like Tishamanga. They saw that he's scoring loads of goals. Some championship clubs were apparently looking at him. There were even rumours in January that you could potentially lose him to a championship club. Jeff King, you snatched from us. That was a very good signing as well. How's Jeff King done then since he's got fitted into Chesterfield?
I really like Jeff King, to be honest. I think the one thing that's evident about him is that he's a very, very good attacking player. He's been playing right wing back for us pretty much all season. Obviously, yes, same as it was for you. I think didn't Wild convert him to that position from a
because he was a midfielder and then he were like a fringe player. To be honest with us, we thought he'll probably leave at the end of the season. He stayed another season and he was undoubtedly one of our best players that season.
Yeah, and he's a great attacking player, isn't he? I think the thing that he struggled with probably more recently is obviously, like I said, Cook has switched things to forward and back. So he's been deployed as an out-and-out full-back rather than a wing-back. And I think defending probably isn't the strongest part of his game. So he's sort of both muted a bit in terms of going forwards because he's a bit further down the pitch, and he's being asked to do things defensively that he's probably not that comfortable with. So I think that overall he's had a great season for us. I mean, I'm pretty sure he's our top assists man. I don't have the stats in front of me, but I think he's got like 9 or 10 assists for us this season and a couple of goals as well. So yeah, he's done a great job overall. I think he's much better as a right wing back than as a right back though.
Shaymen stats, as you are the stats man. Do you know how many bookings he got last season, Jeff King? I remember we talked about it in a podcast last year.
I seem to think if yellows counted for 1 point and straight reds counted for 3, he ended up accumulating about 34 points. He had 20 plus bookings over 2 seasons. Yeah. But just like Tom said, I think last season, I mean, he must have set up at least 5 or 6, whipping that ball in out from the right-hand side. So, I mean, he set up, again, he scored a couple of goals last season. I think he got maybe 3, 4 last season. But again, his assists will have been right up there with, in fact, he was probably our lead assist maker, maybe up there with Luke Summerfield. Yeah, so he's just carrying on where he left off, really. But yeah, he just seemed to either talk himself into bookings or he'd make one rash challenge.
Yeah, he scored 7 goals last season for us, and he scored a lot of crucial goals as well. I still remember that game against Torquay where he gave away 2 penalties.
Oh God, yeah.
And then he scored in the last minute against top of the league Torquay for us. And that was a huge game for our, trying to sneak into the playoffs towards the end of the season.
Yeah.
And that was probably when we started to believe we could potentially sneak into the playoffs towards the end of the season. But yeah, going a bit back to Chesterfield's recruitment, it's been very impressive, hasn't it, this season?
I think so, yeah. I would say that recruitment is one of the most important things, full stop, for any club to get right, especially if you go for promotion. But even generally speaking, if you can't get the signings right, then you are sort of trying to put square pegs in round holes, or you're going to try and play players in positions they're not used to, or playing systems they aren't used to. So you need to get the recruitment right, and that's something that since we've been down here, we've not been very good at, and since the community trusts have come in, we've been very good at. So I think that's the real difference, to be honest. If I had to pin it down to one thing, obviously James Rowe was a fantastic manager, not necessarily a fantastic bloke, but you can't argue he was a fantastic football manager. But the recruitment is everything, isn't it, in football? You've got to get that right first and foremost, and we've done that really well this year, for sure. Yeah,
something that Halifax have also done very well at this season, particularly that recruitment, start the season. Some of the players we were looking to sign, I remember our forum actually complaining, saying, I'm not buying my season ticket this season because of the recruitment. We'll be lower mid-table at best. We'll be surprised if we're not in a relegation scrap. And it shows to you that it doesn't particularly matter what the actual budget is. It's more about recruitment and getting the right people. And that's something that Chesterfield have also succeeded at, to compete with the likes of Wrexham. Because up until later on in the season, where I think it's similar to what happened to us last season with injuries, we were very unfortunate last season. Up until about the 2022 or so, Chesterfield were looking like the team to be in this division. I know they were. They're not now, but I think they were unbeaten. Was it at home or was it away when they was unbeaten?
Yeah, I think we were unbeaten at home until quite late on into the season, to be fair. But yeah, no, I think that's something that Pete Wild does a really good job of at Halifax, to be honest. I mean, Billy Waters was probably the big one, wasn't he? Where I saw that, I saw you sign him, I was like, that's a really good signing, that, to be honest. Yeah. It probably went a bit under the radar, didn't it? But what a fantastic signing. And did you say earlier, is he a top scorer, or is he doing well?
Yeah, he got 20 in all competitions. Yeah. But the thing is, we're backed up. Warburton's got 12, Slew's got 10.
Yeah. It isn't.
We do score from all over, really. But yeah, it's the big signing for me was Warburton. But yeah, sneaking Billy Waters in. I mean, he's won this league, and he was a losing finalist last season for Torquay.
It isn't. I saw quite an interesting statistic. A Torquay fan put this on. I think it was Torquay.
Oh yeah, I saw it as well. Yeah.
And I think it was like 17 points between Halifax and Torquay, and the amount of points that Billy Waters that he'd won for Halifax was actually 17 points, and that shows how crucial he has been for this season. But it's not just all been Billy Waters, to be honest, and definitely not. There's been the likes of Warburton. He's someone who's been very good in the second half of the season. I know he scored in the reverse fixture against Chesterfield. There's other players surrounding him: Summerfield, Green, Spence, a youngster that's come through at Halifax from Middlesbrough. You know, there's a lot of players within the Halifax squad. There isn't particularly a weak point from our point of view where we are looking vulnerable. That is one thing that you would potentially fear if you were a Chesterfield fan tomorrow. Are there any vulnerabilities from Chesterfield's point of view?
I can't reveal all our secrets, lads. I don't know. I'd say, like I said earlier on, conceding late goals is the one that we really need to iron out probably more than anything else. I do think that the win against Wealdstone will go some way to help in that, because I do think it's partly a mentality thing from our players where in the last 5 or 10 minutes they just stop panicking, if you know what I mean. Obviously, having seen that game out, I do think that will give them a bit of confidence. I'd say, generally speaking, we are prone to the odd mistake in possession as well. Like I said, that's probably a bit down to trying to get used to this new passing style of play. The players have probably been asked to pass the ball more than they were before, and it's taking a bit of getting used to. But yeah, I'd say if you're good at winning the ball back, if you're good at dominating midfield, then that's probably the way to go against us, because we do like to play through the middle quite a lot.
Yeah. Well, that's one positive that I'm sure that we'll probably try take advantage of, hopefully, from our perspective. But yeah, it's hard to talk a bit about Chesterfield's form at the minute because it's been quite inconsistent. You were very consistent at the start of the season. You, like I've said, you were looking like the team to beat. Then you had that horrendous form, you've lost to Wrexham, you lost to Maiden there. There were a lot of bad results in there, especially that Wrexham game when you look at Wrexham and you're thinking about they're a team that we're really trying to compete with on the promotion scale. Yeah, and that wasn't a particularly, I'm sure from a Chesterfields fan, a nice experience, especially we know it when you lose to Wrexham, how bad their fans can really be. What was that like, losing to Wrexham?
Do you know what, actually? I was a lot less bitter than I thought it would be, because like you said, there are a fair few of their fans out there who are quite cocky. I kind of just had to take my medicine a bit with that one, because I did think Wrexham, it was a quite close game, but in the second half, they sort of just bossed set pieces. And I think they scored like a free kick and a long throw or something like that. And that is the kind of team that Phil Parkinson likes to set up with. But they do it well. And you've got to say, if they take their chances and you don't take yours in a game of football, you don't deserve to win, do you? So, yeah, from that point of view, I think it was fair enough. And they brought a cracking following as well. I think there were around 1,900 Wrexham fans, and they never stopped singing all game. So I kind of just had to be like, you know what, lads, fair enough.
Yeah, I remember when Wrexham came to Halifax. I still regret that. I still have nightmares about Paul Mullins scoring that last-minute winner against us. Especially, I'm sure Shaymen Stats can say this as well. We were probably the better side over the course of the game. However, when we went to the race course, it was a totally different story. I don't know if you watched it on BT yourself, but we were outclassed, to be honest. But
it still took a penalty and defensive kamikaze for them to beat us. Despite that, I mean, of course, they were the better team, but we give them a penalty after 5 minutes, and that's it. You're going to be on back foot. You know, the third goal were just no idea what we were doing.
Yeah.
But then on the flip, they could say, "Oh, Burnley scored a wonder goal. Like, when's he ever going to do that again?" Sort of thing. So it's swings and roundabouts. But yeah, they were much better than us.
Yeah, and it's results like that, isn't it, that really can have a big influence in the season. Because, like I say, when you're playing against your direct promotion rivals, the stakes just seem higher, even though it's still the same amount of points if you win, still the same amount of points if you draw or lose or whatever. You know, it's more the psychological aspect of it, isn't it? You know, losing against your direct promotion rivals, it can't have a good impact on your players' mentality, can it? I don't think.
No, I know when we lost to Wrexham, I just thought, fair enough, Wrexham. They were the better team of the night. It's not somewhere that I want to go again in the playoffs, definitely not. It's why it's so crucial for us to get second or third, because we need that home draw. Because if we're having to go to Wrexham, I can only see one result, unfortunately. If we're having to go there, if we're playing them in the final, or even if they drop out, which is probably unlikely, and finish 4th or 5th or 6th or 7th, if they're coming to the share, be a little more confident. But yeah, they're not they're that sort of side that I do fear for in the playoffs. And would you, as a Chesterfield fan, who would you be trying to avoid in the playoffs?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and I think we're probably in the same boat as you, really, in that we were really targeting second or third just because of the benefits of that. I mean, you look at last season, and was it Torquay and Hartlepool, I want to say, finished second and third, and they both ended up in the final. So, you know, it shows you the impact it can have, really. And I think that having the home tie as well, getting your own fans behind you, that's massive. And like you say, if you go into like the race course, it's going to be sold out and a great atmosphere from a home point of view, but from an away fan point of view, it's a really hostile place to go, isn't it? So I don't know. I think as long as we finish third place, because I do think Wrexham, they're probably nailed on for second now, I'd say it's a bit of a horse race now between us, you, Solihull, those kinds of teams for third place. But if we can finish third place, I don't really think we should fear anyone, just because you've got to beat them all to get up anyway, haven't you? That's kind of what
I believe that's the first time we've mentioned Solihull, and we've been talking for 40 minutes, so they're very much going under the radar. First team to draw at the Shea other week, a 0-0.
They
you know,
were.
I mean,
I didn't, to be honest, when Solihull came to the Shea, they were a decent side, don't get me wrong. You could tell they were a playoff outfit. They looked good, although they didn't score, they did look good going forward through Sabah and Dallas. But I remember going, I don't know if obviously it's changed since then, it was a long time ago now, but I remember going to Chesterfield away, and although we got the point, I remember thinking, Chesterfield, they were a very, very good side. Wrexham away, I thought, they're a very, very good side. Notts County away, although we managed to get a point there under being with 10 men, they looked a very, very good side, Notts County.
Yeah, they hit the post and bar, 3 times? Notts County. We really got away with a point there.
Yeah, we defended well, but that's one thing that we are pretty impressive at. We're good, and although we conceded late on at Chesterfield, we are very, very good defensively, and when we do sit back, we are very hard to break down. I know. I want to hear your opinion about that reverse fixture then.
Sorry, can you say it again?
Pardon? I want to hear your opinion about the reverse fixture. Obviously, we were quite deep, weren't we?
Yeah. Well, to be honest with you, I was quite impressed by you lot on the day. I thought you played some really nice stuff. Obviously, fantastic goal by Warburton. We've just seen it back, haven't we, at the start? Really, really good finish. And I was fearing at that point, because we went 1-0 down, didn't we? And I was fearing what the result might be at that stage. But I thought we did pretty well to fight our way back into it in the end. But no, I thought you look like a really good passing team. And like you say, there's a few teams like that in this league. I mean, Solihull, they were Paul Cook's first home game, actually. And we took a 2-0 lead really quickly.
Oh, yeah, and then you lost, And
then we got sent down to 10 men. And after that, Solihull sort of just took full advantage of the extra man, if you know what I mean. But up to that point, I thought we were competing well. Well, obviously, 2-0 lead, and we were happy with that. But no, they were just brutally clinical when it came to it. And I think that's what gets you up there, isn't it? Being clinical and taking your chances when they come.
Yeah, I remember going to Chesterfield away. It was probably one of my favourite away days this season as a Halifax Town fan. And it was a game of 2 halves, I remember the first half. It was quite even. I think we probably just edged it in the first half. The second half, it was, you would expect this with us being 1-0 up and Chesterfield needing to score. The pressure was sliding right on to us until, we managed to equalise. And then even then, we started to get a few chances, but I was fearing that Chesterfield were going to end up winning that game, and that would have been, heartbreaking from our point of view, because we worked so hard going to Chesterfield, and it was a big day for both clubs. I know Chesterfield, I believe it was a sellout, wasn't it, at Chesterfield? We took a reasonably good following as well. You could tell it was a huge game at that point in the season, and it's funny how it's changed now when you're coming to the Shea this Saturday compared to earlier on in the season. Early on in the season, we were both going for the title. Now we're probably both going for second or third. So, how confident are you going into tomorrow now? Are you a little fearful of Halifax?
Yeah, a little bit, I would say. I just think at the minute, you don't know what Chesterfield team you're getting on the day. We've put in some really great performances since Cook's come in, and some shocking ones as well. I mean, Grimsby, the 4-1 loss at home a couple of weeks ago. Yeah. That's the worst game of football I've seen from us in years. And then you go back another 2 or 3 weeks from that, we beat Notts County 3-1 at home, and that was a great performance. So we really have been inconsistent lately. So it just depends what Chesterfield team turns up. But I know that it's going to be a tough game regardless, because Halifax, like I said, got some really good players, and you're up there on merit. So it's not going to be an easy game, but I think it's going to be a cracking one, and it's going to be a great atmosphere for both sets of fans, I hope.
Yeah, I'm sure. I think it'll be a tight game tomorrow. I think could be a 0-0 or a 1-0. Yeah, I think it's going to be that sort of game where it's going to go either way. To be honest, it could also be one of them games where we just literally freeze, which we have done in the past. Now we went to Kidderminster in the FA Cup and we froze. Wrexham away, we froze. Shaymen stats, what are you thinking tomorrow?
Take a draw. I'd just take a draw now. Just it's one more game less, and just hope hope Wrexham don't win, but I'm sure Wrexham will probably have somebody dead easy. Our Achilles heel's been we've lost home and away to Maidenhead and we lost to Kings Lynn, didn't we?
Yeah,
that's it. That's what sort of cost us. But yeah, I think it'll be a draw tomorrow. But I think both teams will score. I think it'll be a 1-1 or it'll be a 2-2.
Yeah, I think a draw from our perspective is more important than from Chesterfield's perspective. They're probably thinking going into the game, we need to win to get second or third. Not saying if you lose that you're still out of that race for second or third, but it's more important that you come to the Shea and you win tomorrow than probably from our perspective. If we win tomorrow, there's a big gap between Halifax and Chesterfield. I think it'd go to 6 points, and I think we'd have a game in hand as well. Where from Chesterfield's perspective, if they do win tomorrow, it closes that gap. I think we'd be a point above you. I think we'd have a game in hand. I'm not sure about that, but yeah,
Sorry,
we might have caught up now. I know there were one point where we had 3 games in hand on Chesterfield, and we've finally got above you now. But it has changed, though. I remember Chesterfield. I think we were a point above you, but you had like 2 or 3 games in hand on us, and it has changed over the course of the season from both clubs, and it's interesting to see which side is it this season then that you probably thought, wow, they're the best side that you've seen.
Oh, that is a really good question, to be honest with you. I don't know. I mean, I was really impressed by Grimsby the other day, I've got to say. I mean, as bad as we were, they were playing some really nice football. And I actually went to the reverse fixture up at Blundell Park, which we won 1-0. And I thought in that game, it was a really scrappy one. It was like a really, really poor one. Then like Shaymen scored right at the end of the game to win it for us. But at that point, Grimsby looked like they were going to drop out of the playoffs and just slump into mid-table. But since then, they've gone on a cracking run. So I think they're another team that aren't to be overlooked.
On both occasions when we played Grimsby away and at home, they looked like a very good side. I remember going to Grimsby just after the back of that 1-1 draw at Chesterfield, and it was a very similar game, Grimsby. When we went to Grimsby, we drew 1-1. We scored early into the second half, and then we conceded late on, literally the last minute. And then we played them at home like a week later. We beat them 1-0. But on both occasions, Grimsby were a very, very good side, very strong. And they've got a lot of good players. They've got that, I think it's Sosa, who's like a winger, quite a nippy winger. I was speaking to a Grimsby fan. Apparently, he just can't shoot. You've got John McAtee as well. There's a lot of players within Grimsby. And they could be a bit of a dark horse if they do manage to get into the playoffs and potentially make it all the way to the final. Would they be someone that you potentially fear if you played them in the playoffs, even at home?
I don't know. I mean, like I said, I think you can't really go into the playoffs with the sort of mindset of fearing teams, because if you want to go up, you've got to beat them at the end of the day. So you've got to stand up to those teams. But I think they're not a team to be, like I say, not to be overlooked. Them or Solihull. I mean, Solihull, they're unbeaten in 16 games, I want to say, something like that. And you just look at teams like that, and they could potentially fly under the radar, like you said. But they are good teams, and you've got to beat these teams if you want to go
up. Yeah, something. Go on, Shaymen stats.
Oh no, just going to say with Solihull, they've just come under the radar. As Tom was saying, it looked like Grimsby were just going to slip into mid-table. All of a sudden, they're back. Boreham Wood have really gone off the boil since they've gone out of the FA Cup. They were probably the best team I've seen us play. Other than watching Grimsby demolishers on Wrexham demolishers on telly, I think Boreham Wood were the best team I've seen.
Yeah, they were good defensively. They were very hard to break down, Boreham Wood. To be honest, I thought I had a feeling when they had the FA Cup run and they had the FA Trophy and so many games to catch up, and I thought, Boreham Wood, they're going to go off the boil, to be honest, and it's proven right that they are. Chesterfield, they've had some good FA Cup, quite a good FA Cup experience, haven't they, this year? Something that I was jealous of, especially when I saw us lose to Kidderminster. I'm sure you did go. Chesterfield went to Chelsea. What was that experience like from your perspective?
Well, it was a cracking day out, first and foremost. I mean, it's not very often in lower leagues that you get to see a team play at a stadium like Stamford Bridge, is it? And I thought it was a really impressive ground, to be fair. It's bigger than I realised it was, actually. But I just sort of, it's one of them, when you go to a big stadium and you sort of get the first glimpse out onto like the far stand, and it's just massive. I was just like, blooming heck, it's actually we're actually here. It's crazy. And then we were like stood around in the concourse inside, really nice concourse, having a couple of beers. Then all of a sudden the team news comes out, and Thomas Tuchel named pretty much his starting 11, and we're up against Timo Werner and Romelu Lukaku, and we were bricking it at that point. It has to be said. We were like, oh great, how many is this going to be? 10-0 probably.
Yeah.
So obviously, I think we went 4-0 down in the first. Was it half an hour?
Sante scored, didn't he? Coming back from injury.
Yeah. Oh yeah, of course. Then obviously Sante near the end of the game. That was the real highlight for us, I'd say. I mean, obviously it was 5-1 in the end, but I can say that I see my team score at Stamford Bridge, and that's a fantastic thing to be able to see, really, isn't it? So it was great.
Yeah, I think yes, Asante, he's someone that we should also watch out for. Now he was injured for the first half of the season, so I think he came back for the Halifax game, I believe, and he looked a good player against us. I know Tishamanga also looked good. You could tell that he, the way Tishamanga played, he could play at a lot higher level. And then you've also got Asante who up front with him, and he's someone that we should be watching out for tomorrow. Asante, he's got, I don't know his form at the minute, but I know when he came back from injury, he was scoring goals for fun at one point. And yeah, he's a very good at holding up the ball, isn't he, Asante?
Definitely, yeah. I mean, it was our main goal getter really last season because obviously we didn't have Shaymen at that point, so he was our kind of main goal scorer, and I think he got us like 10 goals in 20 games or something like that. So it was a pretty bang on, kind of ratio you want from a striker, 1 in 2. Then I think this year, obviously, he's sort of really had to step up to the plate in recent weeks with Shaymen now being out. He's sort of our main striker at this point. And I think he's got something like 7 goals in 15 or something. So he's doing well. Like you say, his hold-up play is probably the strongest part of his game. He's really good at bringing other players into play. But I think he's better off as in a 2 up front than a 1 up front. He's not really a low striker. So if we play with 2 up front, he is really dangerous. If he's on his own, he might be a bit isolated. So it all depends on how he's set up, I'd say, tomorrow.
Have you seen up from Denton this season? He was a fan favourite at Halifax time. One of them players who left Halifax, but yeah, we never boo him or anything when we see him now, because he was quite a very likeable character around Halifax town. I'm sure Shaymen Stats can tell you he did a lot for us when he was with us. He's 6 foot. How tall is he? 6'4", 5".
Something like that. Yeah.
Have you seen the best? I know he's been there for so long, hasn't he, Tom Denton? But he's always been injured, hasn't he? He's gone out injured. Have you really seen the best of Denton yet? Do you think?
I think he's been a bit of a mainstay really for us since we signed him. Obviously, I remember first seeing him in a pre-season friendly at Alfreton Town, which is the club just down the road in Chesterfield, and I think we lost 2-0 in the friendly, and he scored both the goals against us. And then a week later, he was signing for the club. So clearly, Martin Allen liked him, and since then, I mean, he's earned his way into the team under every single manager that's been at the club. So I think that says a lot about the bloke, really. He's a big bloke. He's probably a target man, you'd say, is his strengths, but he scores goals as well.
Remember, we used to say he can't kick a football, but he can score goals. Something that we said.
He's really good feet, I'd say, though, for a big man. I think he's like flick-ons and that kind of thing are pretty good as well. I'd say, he's a really dangerous kind of player for any defence in this league to deal with. So I just hope that now his injury is behind him, he can come back in and start making an impact again, because he's had a bit of a rough season injury-wise.
Yeah. I remember going to Chesterfield, I think the season before, I think when COVID did kick in towards the end of the season, I remember going to Chesterfield and us winning 3-2 there. And that was some experience. The second half was horrible because even when we were 3-1 up, you're thinking they're going to come back. And I know going into that game, Halifax had started well, Chesterfield hadn't, but they were always scored. They seemed to score a lot of goals. I think they scored in every single game, Chesterfield, although they hadn't done too well at the start of the season. Shaymen Stats said you get there Tuesday night, and it's one of them games you'll probably remember. I'll probably remember forever.
3rd of September, I think it was, 2019.
We won. We were 3-0 up, and then Chesterfield came back, and throughout the game, I had my hand in my head, just thinking, "Please hold on."
It were a pretty crazy end to that game. But for, like you said, for about an hour of that game, we were just untouchable. And obviously, it were only maybe the 5th or 6th Pete Wild game. Obviously, we're going to do a separate podcast about Pete Wild, but crazy. Yeah.
Did you go to that game, Tom?
Yeah, I will have been there. I'll be honest with you, I can't really remember it. I've probably repressed it from my memory if we lost. I'll be honest with you. When were it? 2019? Did you say? Yeah.
Early September 2019.
And then still came back, and Oh, I don't like to talk about that final half an hour, to be honest. We were that intense. Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. No, I don't remember it. I'll be honest with you. I mean, there's been a lot of football over the last few years. So,
I think Fondop, when Fondop were with you, because he used to play for us as well.
Mike Fondop,
yeah, I think he scored for you as well. He was.
I liked Fondop. A good player, isn't he? He's got very hot-headed though, isn't he? He's prone to a red card.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. He did well for us. I still remember that 0-0 draw against Solihull, and it was a big game, and it was a 2-1 goal, and you thought, he's got to score, and then he just skied it over the bar. Yeah, I still remember that, but yeah, he was a good player for us, and yes, Chesterfield do have a thing about signing players from Halifax. There's Bowden. Obviously, he didn't directly leave Halifax to Chesterfield, but past players, there's Bowden, there's Denton, there's Jeff King. I'm sure there's more who I haven't said, but yeah, they do seem to like having ex-Halifax Town players. And yeah, it would be good to see Chesterfield finally get back into the Football League, because I remember a time when Chesterfield were in League One, and this wasn't too long ago at all as well. I think they were Sheffield United just above them. And now just below them, they've got Halifax. Now just above them, they've got Halifax Town. That's the difference to them days. But yeah, what's it like then from your experience now as a Chesterfield fan? Is it more of a positive? Is it more positive now than what it's been in past years? Do you feel that it's crucial that you do get back to the Football League?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, obviously, I've like I say, I've watched Chesterfield for about probably 10, 11 years now. So I've seen us in League One and competing in the playoffs. I've seen us at the bottom end of the National League. So I've seen quite a lot of different scenarios, shall I say. I'm not seeing a mid-table season yet. I'll be honest with you. I've not seen a boring season yet. That's all I want, just a boring season where you have to worry about anything. But no, it's definitely a lot more positive now. I think the new ownership was the biggest one, because at one point we weren't even sure we were going to have a club. It was actually that bad. And I think if we dropped into the Conference North, it would, ask Stockport. It's a very long way back from there, isn't it? It's positive now that we've got owners who actually care about the club first and foremost. And I think naturally, just because of the size of the club, we're always going to be wanting to get back into the Football League. And I think if we don't do it this year, like I said, there's such a good feel factor around the club. And if Paul Cook is allowed to build his squad in the summer, I think we'll give the title a good go again next season. To that point, if we don't go up, I'd quite like to see Halifax go up, to be honest. I mean, obviously, a fair local club and a club that, really sort of did lose it all, didn't you, when your club went bust?
Yeah,
when was that? Quite a while back, wasn't it? 2008, And obviously, Phoenix clubs come back, and now you're on the cusp again, aren't you, with the Football League? So it'd be really nice to see you back. It'd be a really nice success story, wouldn't it?
Yeah. I'd love to see Halifax Town get back to the Football League, but it'd be also good to see a Chesterfield or a Stockport get back up there, because there's a lot of them, more or less the top 7 clubs have all had the financial difficulties, and they're all trying to get back to the Football League now. So it'd be great. Finally then, Tom, what's your score prediction?
I'm going to be optimistic, not from your point of view, but I'm going to say a narrow 2-1 win for Chesterfield. But it's going to be a very close game. It's not going to be easy by any stretch. But I'm going to say we'll win it just.
Hopefully you're wrong. So I wish you the best of luck, but not too much. Cheers for coming on. I do really appreciate it. For any Chesterfield fans that may be watching, go give Spireiteswrites a follow on Spotify. I would suggest it. Tom, I really appreciate you coming on.
Cheers, lad. Cheers for having me. And good luck for the rest of the season, apart from tomorrow.
Okay.
No worries.
See ya.
Bye-bye. See ya.
So, coming up on the show now, we're going to be speaking to Ronan Brown about the survey news and South Stand Loyal. He currently runs it on Facebook. So, for any fans watching, please feel free to get your thoughts in the chat on attendances, etc. So we'll see you in a second after this video.
Winning goal.
And being, though, the sun has set on league football in Halifax.
Enough there when McEwen's stranded. Then the follow-up there is in from Scott McManus.
Is it to Summerfield?
Summerfield strikes and misses it. Goes for a shot and it's in. Forbes just found the...
Hopefully that's a taster for you for tomorrow's game. So we brought Ronan on tonight. Ronan, I think I can unmute you. Oh, Ronan, I can't unmute you.
Hi, mate, you all right?
Hi, Ronan, how are you doing? So,
Yeah, I'm
Ronan,
good, mate. How are you?
I thought you wanted to talk a bit about South Stand Loyal and the survey news. We'll be talking a bit about that in a minute. What are your thoughts then on South Stand Loyal? It's become more popular, hasn't it, recently? It's been going on for a while, but like myself, more Sam McCullough, more people are getting involved, aren't they?
They are, yeah. So I just want to make sure you can hear me okay.
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Perfect, mate. Yeah, so I'm out at the minute, so obviously I'll try to keep it as good as I can. Yeah, recently it's been really good. You know, we're having a lot more people coming on board. And to be fair, ultimately that's what it's about. It's about getting the younger people involved. It's more to do with the atmosphere as well, working with the club when and where we can. And that survey, as you briefly mentioned, is a massive indicator of what we're wanting to push down at the Shea. Obviously, past few seasons, the atmosphere's been up and down. The pandemic's had a massive impact on that, but it is something we're now, trying to really look at and rebuild.
Yeah, it is looking good, and we've already seen an impact on what South Stand Loyal's had most recently. For example, we've had the Torquay game, we had flags in. That's something that we're trying to introduce, isn't it? Flags, etc.
It is, yeah. So not just obviously flags, but drum, confetti, anything behind the team that's currently got anything to be the 12th man. I think the massive thing now is going to be pushing on to Chesterfield tomorrow. I know there's a lot of people, especially even people who don't normally come down, who said, you're going to be down tomorrow. I'm like, yeah, I'll be there. I'm going to come down. I'm going to bring X, Y, Z. So it's all about getting the more fans down we can, the better for me.
Mm-hmm. You live within the town, I believe, Ronan, don't you?
Yeah, I do.
Are you seeing like an impact on like fans who don't usually come to the Shea starting to come now in the near future?
Yeah, I'm definitely seeing it. I think there's been a massive push by the club. I'm not saying that couldn't be better, because I still think there's things we can do to maybe progress the atmosphere a lot more than what we've currently got. But obviously, as you'll know, you've dropped in on a couple of these supporters club meetings as well.
Yeah,
they're going really well. And as a supporters club, we're just trying to rally around and get as many people as we can behind the team, get some more funds raised than obviously what we've had last season. I think that's going to be a massive impact as well. Is just how well people support the club, support the 50-50. Any draws or promotions that the club have currently got, I'd encourage anyone on here to get involved, because everything goes back to the club ultimately.
You're talking about funding there. We're in the future, we're looking to have a GoFundMe page, aren't we?
Yeah, so that's another thing. I know 3-4 seasons ago, again before the pandemic, we bought loads of flags. We bought a new drum. We bought confetti. We bought flags for certain players. Scott McManus being a great example of that.
Yeah.
Obviously, recently James Dean, who sadly passed away. I know a couple of the lads got a flag for him from the East Stand. So things like that, really, it's great seeing. Obviously, it's good to see people just chipping in and getting down when they can, as and when.
Yeah, and it is looking like we're going to try increase attendance towards the end of the season, because there are a lot of people surrounding the club who may feel that the attendances aren't acceptable for the position that we're currently in the league. Is it something that South Stand Loyal's trying to do in the near future to try create a relationship with the club to offer suggestions?
It is, yeah. I think, I'll be honest with you, I'm not 100% happy with the attendances myself, especially where we are in the league. People say COVID's had an impact on that. People say the cost of living, etc. My honest opinion, I do think the price is quite high, for what we charge into the ground. But it's definitely something that we've got to look at in future.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you look at Huddersfield, for example. They've done like football for £5. Bradford City offer season tickets for only about £100. It seems like Halifax are charging more for lower league football. Is that a problem?
It is a problem and it isn't. To me, it's not a problem because the money's going to the club, but it is a problem in respect that I think at this part of the season, tomorrow's a bank holiday. We're playing Chesterfield. I think that would have been a great opportunity to drop admission prices slightly. Now, I think it doesn't really matter what I say because there's going to be people who disagree with me. I could say the best point in the world. There's always going to be someone who disagrees. But my thing is as well, you've got to take into account the stewarding costs. You've got to take into account the gas, the electric. Everything we still run on the match day is what we'd get charged normally. So I can see the club's point in terms of the admission prices, and I know they are doing a lot of work. Again, however, it'd be good to see some sort of reduced admission or some sort of, if you attend 3 games, you get the 4th free, or anything really as a new promotion or campaign to get more people down would be really good to see. I know Huddersfield do it, and a lot of people compare us to Huddersfield, but you got to think with the amount of funding Huddersfield have from their TV rights, the EFL, I know they do the iFollow. There's a lot of things that people don't see compared to Halifax. We are a smaller club compared to Huddersfield, and it's definitely something that people have got to bear in mind, when looking at the admission prices.
There are a lot of obvious things that people have suggested through this survey. However, you've got to think that the club have probably thought of this when you think of some of the things like reducing prices, etc., season tickets. But there's obviously, like you've suggested, there's another side to the story that they're needing the money to go into the club. Bosworth's doing this because he wants to see the club fulfil its full potential to get back to the Football League. But there are things for free that the club could potentially do. For example, advertising it a bit around the town, and that's something that a lot of people have complained for many years, that within Halifax, there's little advertisement, and people around the town, we're not seeing too many new families, etc., come to the Share.
Yeah, I mean, just on that, there's someone I know who works very closely with the Halifax Panthers, and they've recently launched Panthers in the community. That's been a massive success, and I don't understand why at this point, especially in this point in our season, why that's not being considered. Whether it's, again, reduced admission, whether it's going around schools, flyers. I mean, there just doesn't seem to be that much on a match day as there was 2-3 years ago. Even when we're looking in terms of match day announcements, the next game down here at the Shea is XYZ. I don't seem to hear that, and I don't know whether it's because I'm so induced over the fact we've got 3 points and the players are coming over to celebrate, or whether that's not happening, or whether I'm just missing it. I'm not too sure, but there does seem to be something more that can be done. Again, linking in with the supporters club, I'm still in contact with John Williams, current commercial director. We are looking at alternative things. John's got a lot of stuff on his workload at the moment that he's promoting, and that he's going to be, hopefully pushing out. I can't say too much on that because that's not my decision or thing to announce. But there are things in the pipeline. I just hope that they're done sooner rather than later. Hopefully give us the best chance of getting some more people down.
I think what frustrates me personally is when you see Woking. I know Woking, for example, they're already offering season tickets now. We've seen little offering for next season tickets from Halifax's perspective. But you see in sides like Woking, like Wrexham. I know Wrexham are a totally different outfit for us. They're a lot bigger club. They've got the new financial with Ryan Reynolds, etc., coming into the club. So they're going to attract better crowds than Halifax. But they've already sold 5,000 season tickets for next season. Woking, who I see as a similar size club on attendances, have already put out season ticket offers for next season, reducing season tickets. Is that something that in the upcoming weeks the club need to do, is bring out season tickets for people for next year?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the sooner the better, really. The sooner the better, because we can then start promoting, the current or the new season's season ticket prices. We can start actually putting out some, whether it be offers or, promotions of some sort. Even if it's just advertising, for me, something needs to be done so more people within the town can hear. I just want to give a quick shout out as well to Steve Collingwood from the Supporters Club. I know Steve's on. Obviously, Steve's done a lot of work for the Supporters Club as well, and it's something that does get discussed. Any any concerns that people have regarding the club, the way it's run, the way XYZ works, I'd definitely encourage to get signed up to the supporters club. Because what we do is take them on board. We're in regular contact with the club, whether it be Louisa Green, again, John Williams. We're in, contact all the time, and it's something that we all want to work together on. Obviously, the season ticket prices are going to be hard because whichever way you look at it, the club have still got to try and bring money in. But if we don't go up this season, a lot of people are going to be gutted. They are. But it's not something that's guaranteed. And again, it's a game over 2 hours to 90 minutes. And as obvious as that sounds, it's something that if we go up, great. But if we don't, we don't. We can't keep dwelling on that. If we don't go up, we are just going to have to look forward to next season. And again, we will be working with the club as much as we can, just to try to put something in place. I think that's what people need to understand. The whole process is a gradual thing, and it's not something that's going to happen overnight, unfortunately.
Yeah, it does concern me, to be honest, when we look at how well we're doing in the league at the minute and the attendances that we're getting. Next season, if we don't go up, and if we don't go up, we're probably not going to have a season as good as this, where we're in the same league position, probably still pushing for the playoffs. What our attendance is going to be like then? To be honest, they'll probably be the same, but you've got to think away from home, how we're going to be taking the same, and the lack of advertisement around the town, that's going to be affected even more if something doesn't change in the near future, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I mean, sorry, mate, I'm trying to keep this as good as I can. I'm in the middle of town at the minute. It's a bit chaotic. It is, yeah. I mean, the thing is, look at the Panthers. I mean, that's the Halifax football and the Halifax rugby divide has always been there. But one thing I've always admired is I know a couple of people down at the Panthers, they're getting things before the game, children's face painting, family, sort of a family fun day before the match. Yeah. And I don't think people understand how much of a difference that makes. When you put it into perspective, the work that they're doing compared to the football, and I'll be really sort of family friendly here, but it goes well on top of what we're doing. I think there's so much more we could be doing in terms of getting people down. And again, the Halifax Panthers, when they're mentioned, are like, oh no, it's rugby, I'm a football fan, which is fair enough. But if you actually go to a Panthers game when they've got the equivalent of Chesterfield at home tomorrow, for example, if they play Featherstone or Bradford Bulls or a bigger team in their sort of field of play, what they're doing is so much more than what we're doing. And that's what, we're really trying to push to get more people down.
Yeah. You look at, I know, pre-match activities. This is something that I've seen Panthers do. They have a family fun zone. Even other football clubs, this is Bromley, for example, who are far down south. They have like penalty shootouts before the game. Altrincham did as well. They have, free Easter eggs for kids, the first 200 kids who come into the stadium. Is that something that the club need to start doing more often, potentially when you first arrive into the Share? Have a bit more of a warmth about it compared to what it is at the minute, because at the minute, what I see when I go into the Share, I'm in the Share, I get my food, then I watch the game and then I'm straight out.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, definitely. I think, there's stuff in there that can be improved on. And again, just going back to the Panthers, they do the face painting. I think they do things with the five-a-side AstroTurf. But yeah, there's definitely things we can implement in there. And, again, prime time, Easter eggs for children, discounts in local schools for match day tickets. I think there's so much more can be done. But again, it's not an overnight solution. It's something that we all need to sit down and work on. But they're little things that we've had months and months to plan. And I'm talking 8 to 12 months in advance. We all know when Easter falls. Do you know what I mean? This is the thing. We all know Easter time is in a set month. It's Easter Sunday. Why is the club not putting things like that into play? Whether it just be a free Easter egg or, as I've mentioned, vouchers in schools or a bit of face painting. There's definitely something that needs to be done to attract, new fans coming down. I just think how many more seasons can we cope without them sort of things into play to help not only the club but ultimately the gate and the team to spur them on, really.
Yeah, to be honest, historically Halifax have never had the attendances that Chesterfield and Wrexham are getting. They're getting 5,000 plus every single game. Wrexham are getting 8,000, 9,000. You don't expect that, but there's a lot of things that the club could potentially do, and it's little things. It's like the start of the season, there were no catering. I know this was probably because of COVID as well. There were no catering. Then they brought catering back in, and then they went and sacked. I don't know what happened, but they might have had a disagreement. That catering was then sacked. They then brought in another. Then we had 2 weeks or so without any catering and just the bar. And then we bring in a new catering. then they go again. And it seems like it's quite unsettled, and something that a lot of neutrals will probably do when they come down to the Shea. They want to come down, they want to have a drink and watch the game as a neutral, not where... I know me and you will always be going to the Shea no matter what the facilities, etc. But for other people, neutrals or your fans who like Halifax and might support Leeds United, if they're coming in as like no catering, I know there's catering at the minute, and the bar's not up and running, not selling the correct things. That's also going to be a problem, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I mean, just on the back of that as well, Chorley at home, Salford at home, them 3-4 seasons ago, whatever, however long ago it was. Prime examples, you had people who support Leeds United, and I know you can't compare that because, there was in the Championship at that time. Now, obviously promoted to the Premier League, fair play to them. You can't compare, little Halifax Town as we're known to a team like Leeds United. But there does need to be something there. The amount of people that I had coming up to me or just making a passing comment that I've overheard saying, it took me half an hour to get a drink, or it took me 25 minutes and I'm queuing up for a burger. Like, it's the little things like that that will bring people back. There's clubs such as Brighouse Town who've got a fully up and running online ticketing service or club shop. I'm not sure which out of the two, but I do know out of, say, BPA and Brighouse Town, they've got either a ticketing system or a club shop. For me, we're one league off, league football, and it's still a possibility this season. Yeah. What I'm thinking is, why have we not got a club shop? Why have we not got these extra facilities?
Yeah, that's something
that's going to bring the club revenue. And fair play to the supporters club. They've worked the backsides off in terms of merchandise and everything where they can. But for me, I know it may be on a voluntarily basis, but why can we not have a club shop or something regular in either stand? Again, you'll say, we're in the East Stand this week. Well, if you're in the South Stand, that's no good, because sometimes there's then issues of stand transfers, across from the South to the East. I do think there's more the club can do, to work with the fans, to actually listen to what the fans want and implement them. Again, I know it's not an overnight fix, but I know there are things that can be done. Just within a couple of months would be better than within a couple of years, which is what we're seeing at the moment. And I think for what we're asking, it's probably not a great deal.
Yeah, I know from my perspective, I'd love for there to be a club shop. That's something that I've never seen. I believe we have had a club shop in the past. I might have seen it when I used to go and didn't really take any notice when I was really young with my dad. There's an empty storeroom at the end of the Shea, I believe. They could easily have just a match day makeshift shop. And I've been to watch Scarborough Athletic this season when Halifax haven't had a game, and they have a match day club shop. And you're thinking, it's brilliant what the supporters club are doing, and they're trying the hardest to. But you think the club need to get on board and potentially have a club shop that's up and running?
I do, yeah. I just think there's more potential, the club can do. And again, fair play to the supporters club. It's free to join. Any Halifax fans out there, whether you just want to voice your view, or just really get a point across, or work with the supporters club, promote them. It's free to join. At the end of the day, the stuff that we have, play the squares, the 50-50, the Skirk 50-50, the stuff there that the fans can get involved in, which ultimately raise money for the club. But again, just going back to that, I do still think there's things the club should be doing now. Club shop is, for me, priority. We've got a massive Shaymen down south following. I do feel like if they come up for a game and they can't buy a shirt, because we've seen in previous seasons as well that the club shop online has not been perfect. The online store was an absolute farce for months. And it's only recently been sorted out, to my knowledge. Correct me if I'm wrong there, but
I had a Halifax shirt and I didn't get it until Christmas. I got it, I think, just before Christmas, but I ordered it in at the start of the season. It's little stuff like that, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. That's a prime example, Luke. To be fair, mate, you're spot on there. You're not the only person who's had that. There's been other people who've had that difficulty as well. Things like that I just think need to be fixed, and if they're implemented and corrected, that will go a long way as far as the fans are concerned.
Yeah, we're going to go through percentages now of the survey. We won't go into what people have actually said. We may name one or two suggestions that people have suggested. I know one of them was like, where's Freddie the Fox? We haven't had him for years. That's something when I was really young, he'd come around with sweets. I used to love it when I was a lot younger. That's something that I'd love to see come back as the Shea, just having a club mascot. That also promotes us. What doesn't help is stewards are also quite angry and quite not very nice to the fans, and you're getting young kids that wanting to high five players after the game. It's totally safe, and you've got stewards that are telling them not even in a nice way, in a polite way, telling them to you need to be behind a rail or whatever it is.
Yeah, that's That's another thing. I mean, obviously, last 4, 5, 6, maybe longer. In terms of home games, we've had issues with obviously smoke bombs, pyrotechnics. I get the increase the atmosphere. I'm all for them, but obviously as well with that, the match referee makes a note, the club get fined. It's things like that. Again, Freddie the Fox. I've had people coming up to me saying, "Oh, do you know where Freddie the Fox is? He's lad's bringing his kid down, and Freddie the Fox isn't there." That's another thing, especially growing up for me, that I've been involved with is seeing Freddie the Fox. It's a thing that all young town fans see, and they think, "Oh, Freddie's there, and he'll chuck you some sweets." Things like that get families involved. They to me maintain supporters, and they bring them back. It's the little things like that I think the club do need to work on. And again, when I spoke to Sam, we put the poll out. It was just good to know who wants to be involved in what, who thinks what, really, in terms of how the club's run, in terms of what we need to do as fans to get more involved or what we can introduce. So, obviously, I'm more than happy to quickly run onto that survey, but we had some really good responses on that as well.
Yeah, that was good. There were a lot of people who did get on board with that survey, and people are getting on board with social media and everything. There's a lot of, I know the Instagram account's got over 200 followers, and we only set it up 1 or 2 weeks ago, getting a lot of likes on the post that we're producing. Twitter's doing well as well. Facebook's doing well as it has been for many years. Now, I'm going to run through the survey now and the percentages. I think this is the one that everyone's been waiting for, to be honest. But the first one is 45% of people own season tickets this season. 45% go to the back of the South Stand and 21% don't. So that sort of tells you that certain people who enjoy the atmosphere and like to be in, which is usually the younger people like myself who like to be at the top of the South Stand with the drum and everything. That's how many people are probably, going to the top. The next one is 55% have been to 15 plus games this season. What are your thoughts on that?
That's an interesting one. I mean, going back to the season tickets, the season ticket is a fair point. People stand where they want to stand, and I'm not all for changing that. There's people who've been going years and years who will stand with a select group in a certain place. Again, that was myself, before I recently lost my dad. I think in 2019, my dad stopped going down before he passed away. We'd stand all over the shop, we'd meet with different people who we knew or I knew. We'd be down at the bottom, then one week we'd be at the top. That's just down to opinion. It's down to where you want to stand. I'm not all for changing that. I just think the survey is good in terms of we can see how many people are going to games and what people think. And, when we have the next meeting with John and Louisa from a supporters club, there's certain points that I'll be bringing up there, subject to my working hours. If I can get on the meeting, that I'll be passing across and just to try alter. Again, just going back to Freddie the Fox, it's getting the answers for what people want to know, really.
Yeah, 66% plan to get a season ticket next season. 34% say they need some convincing. 83% say gate prices should be cheaper. 77% say they would help spread news about the South Stand. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so that's good to know, that we've got people who want to spread that awareness and spread that news. But I do also think that statistic you've just said about the gates is, for me, the nail on the head. It's definitely something that needs to change and that needs to be altered. And again, as part of the South Stand, we will work as closely as we can, whether that just bring offers in, whether we do fundraisers before the game. I know Kit Walton has the bucket before the game, and he does a lot of things in terms of the supporters club. So I do think there's stuff there that we can work on. I'm just really happy that we've got so many responses on the survey. Yeah, that really just shows, that people are wanting to be involved as well.
Yeah, that is great to see that so many people are responding on the survey. And the percentages, they are some negative things like season tickets. Only 55% saying that, they go over 15 games every season. There's a lot of things that we can do in the future, aren't there, Ronan, to promote it?
Yeah, there are. I mean, as I said, just going back to family events, face painting for kids, 5-a-side, AstroTurf, meet the players. There's probably 15, 20, if not more things that I've not covered just off the top of my head there that we can do. And I think as soon as that awareness goes out and we can link in with the club, and the club have got more ideas about what, we can do as fans, that's what's going to probably change it. So personally, I'll be honest with you, and not just I'm on this podcast, but I think next season's going to be make or break. Whether we stay up or go down is irrelevant. I think if we go up, great, there'll probably be more of a buzz in the town, as you'd expect. If we stay down, I do think there's things that the club can work on. That's what's going to be make or break for me, is whether them things that the fans want will be implemented or not.
Yeah, we've had people in the chat saying, well said, Ronan. Ronan, I do really appreciate you coming on tonight. And hopefully we can try and improve attendances in the near future.
Hopefully, mate. Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you for having me on the show.
Yeah, no problem. So now we're going to be talking about a bit more on Saturday's game with some Halifax Town fans. We'll be talking about merchandise news. I've brought on Rob Brown and Luke, who runs We Are the Shaymen. So let's get them on. How we doing?
Hey, Luke. Good, thank you.
Luke, how are you?
Yeah, good, thanks. As you can probably see, I've got a bit of a cough, so I'm going to quickly get some more water. But Rob, can you talk us through some merchandise news?
Yeah, we've had some great news recently, Luke. We've had new enamel badges made. They've sold out instantly. We've had 100 of each run done, and they've actually sold out each match day. We're getting more ordered. We're getting some Club Crest ones made up as well, because we know there's demand from away fans as well as home fans. And I know Phil has set up a list of people who want priority. So if you want to contact Phil and put your name down, if you want one every single time, it'll be on the list. But we're constantly looking to get more enamel badges made. Phil's had some terrific success with selling some of the official club merchandise as well at the last game. Lots of children's shirts sold quite quickly. He's got hats, he's got scarves, he's got all sorts. So, the last few weeks it's gone really, really well in terms of merchandise. And those enamel badges are just, they're flying off the press. Really, really good.
Yeah, it's great to hear that. And from my perspective, something that I haven't mentioned yet, but quite a lot of high demand on this design that I made of Pete Wild. Try and get it on there. And I'm going to be selling these for £3. I know a lot of people are wanting them. I'm going to be taking a few tomorrow. I'll let you see the design first before you choose to purchase it. So that's just news from my point of view. All funds should go to the Supporters Club or South Stand Loyal. So, Luke, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm really good. Thanks, Luke. It's a pretty massive marathon bank holiday special here, so great to hear from the Chesterfield's fan perspective earlier. And great to hear from Ronan and the South Stand and everything that they're doing there. There's some absolute kind of basic Route 1 stuff that should have been implemented 10 years ago that hopefully the club will be able to act on. Great to see kind of young breed of town fans coming through as well, complementing people who've worked for years and years and years, try to push the best interest of town. So hopefully those can work together to really push things the rest of this season, where there's a massive opportunity to capitalise on this momentum, and then whatever happens next season, definitely some of those ideas sound like they'll make a big difference to the fan base and how we see it grow in the future.
Yeah. And I want to talk a little bit about this from your perspective. Rob, you obviously work within the Supporters Club, don't you? And there's a lot of things that are happening that the Supporters Club are doing to try get the gates through. And it's great that they're having like these stores. I know Phil Merrifield does a lot, doesn't he, within getting merchandise in with badges and stuff like you've mentioned there. They're selling some very impressive things like these badges, retro badges that they're doing. How important is the Supporters Club then for this to try bring people more through the gate and keep the club together with the fans?
I think it's really important. I know Ronan made a comment about we could do better, and we can actually do better with more volunteers. I know we have some people who may attend meetings, but we could do with more people actually on the ground on match day to do stuff. So we could do merchandise in both the South Stand and the East Stand at the same day instead of alternating. It's all about volunteers, and we've had somebody this week come to us saying that they'd like to volunteer and get involved with the sports club. That's great. We're really looking for people all the time, and at the moment there's probably 5-6 people that are really engaged on match days doing things. We could have 20, and the more we have, the more we can do. Nothing is impossible. It's just about getting people to volunteer their time to get involved. And Phil's proved that we can do things on match day and merchandise wise. It's just about people now doing stuff. And we can't just rely on the club to do stuff. Why should we? You go to other clubs as well, you see their sports clubs doing stuff and organising coach travel and doing merchandise. It's not just about leaving it to the club, it's about people actually getting involved themselves and giving up an hour before the game and doing things. We could do all sorts if we all got together and did stuff.
Yeah, and it is great that we've got the supporters club to allow fans to get involved. And we've seen an increase, haven't we, this season with people getting involved in the supporters club?
We have, yeah. But as I say, instead of having 5 or 6, we could have 10 or 20. And we could make a massive difference. Nothing is impossible. We've got the club behind us. We've got these ideas about doing things. The club is saying yes to us all the time to do things. And, it's a joint venture really between the sports club and the club doing stuff. But we just need more people to stand up and say, yeah, I'll do something on match day. I'll give up half an hour of my time. I'll get my mates involved with the 50-50 or whatever, We can do stuff.
Yeah, that's great to hear. Now, I want to talk a bit more on the football side of things now, talking a bit about the positive side when you're looking at Friday's result at Altrincham. Now, both of you, I believe, went. Well, I know, Luke, you've told me that you did go.
Yeah.
I'm suggesting, well, I'm sure that Rob did go because he does go everywhere. I haven't actually asked him, but I'm sure you did go. I think I might have saw you. But yeah, how was it from both your experiences, that Altrincham game?
Yeah, I'll go first. So yeah, it's a local game for me finally on this side of the Pennines, which was a short hop over to North Cheshire. I think the overwhelming feeling after the game was it was a missed opportunity. I know Alty are on great form, especially at home with the defensive record. So we couldn't take anything for granted. But it just felt like having scored first and shown for the first half, the final half an hour, that we were literally just keeping them at arm's length. That continuing that for the second half would probably have been possible. So it's just disappointing. I guess it was a daft concedement of the free kick, and then the poor defending from the ball in. It was a good ball in, but again, you'd expect the class. It's one of our strong points is defending those set pieces. So the nature of that disappointing. Results elsewhere, again, you could take it half glass half full, glass half empty. No one took advantage, but also we didn't lose ground. So overwhelmingly, I think we've got to take the positives, and it's really about tomorrow's game, and it'll look a good point if we manage to get the 3 points tomorrow against Chesterfield.
Yeah, I wasn't to be honest, I wasn't tearing my hair out after that result. When I looked at it, I thought Alty, good hard place to go when you look at Altringham's form. It's coming time. It was good because results did really go our way when you look at the table. I think Solihull Moore's got a draw with Wrexham. That's really worked out well for us. It is a missed opportunity when you look at possibly the title hopes. Now, some may say, I'm sure you two probably feel that we're probably out of the title now. Some may say there was a slight opportunity of us winning the title with Stockport losing yesterday if we did actually beat Altrincham. However, with us drawing to Altrincham, that probably makes the assumption for me that we are probably out of that now. And we have to concentrate on getting second or third, which I'm sure we can do. And tomorrow's going to be a huge game on that part. Rob, what were your thoughts on going to Altrincham?
I thought it was a great point, to be honest, Luke. They're a really tricky side. They've beaten a lot of clubs recently. You can see on the day they're competitive. And I think any point we get in this league, away from home, anywhere, is great. And previous seasons we've gone to places thinking, we're going to get beat here. And now we're going with the idea we're winning games and getting points. And, it's a great point.
I think when that goal was conceded, I think we weren't particularly like, oh no, because I think we all expected us to go on to win the game afterwards. But I think we were quite shocked in the manner that we did actually concede because we've been so strong defensively, and we're pretty good usually when we go 1-0 up to keep that lead and extend it. And there were opportunities within the game where we could have possibly extended the lead. Even when it was 1-1, there were the Jerry McDonough chance. And something that I want to talk about. I'm hoping Shaymen Stats can join us again in a little while. But Alan Martin leaving the club, being recalled from Harrogate, from my opinion, it's a shame because I liked him as a player. I thought he could be a key part, and he still might be with getting that goal against Notts County. away, a key part in our promotion hopes this season. I thought it was a very good signing. But it is a shame, isn't it? He's gone back on loan, especially when we're starting to think, we may be struggling for an out-and-out goal scorer. We may be relying a little bit on Billy Waters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think this is the lottery of the loan market that we're playing at the moment. We had Jack Vale, obviously, on loan for the first half of the season, who popped up, but was a good option off the bench. Newby paid a good impact. So, the players that are coming in, more often than not, are hitting, but you're just so at the mercy of the parent club or other circumstances. And if, I guess it's in a good way, Aaron Martin wasn't, firmly established in the team and we weren't relying on him. His injury didn't help with that. But yeah, going into the final 5 or 6 games of the season would have been a good option off the bench, and it just puts more pressure on Billy to step up and really convert those half chances and play a full 90 minutes every game. We saw when he came on against Torquay, wasn't it, in the second half, that sometimes it is an interesting perspective to just give him that last half an hour, whatever, and he can run the show against some tight defenders. Puts a lot of pressure on Jerry, who's obviously not a proven player at this level to carry a team. You've got fewer players on the sideline who might come back from loan. But yeah, it's left us a little short of options up front.
Yeah, and there's, like you said about Stenson a bit, I think he'd be a good option. He's doing well at Kiddie at the minute, I believe, and it'd be a good option for someone to bring back if we do need him. Like, I like Joey McDonough as a player, not just because he scores goals, although he has only scored the one. He looks a good player, looks a bulky player that offers something for us going forward. But he doesn't, to me, seem like a prolific goal scorer, to be honest, when I look at him. I think he's a useful player. What's your thoughts on him?
Yeah, he works hard, Luke. He's obviously worked hard all season, and he's got himself really fit, and he contributes well. And, the team's made up of different sorts of players, isn't it? And he's the sort of player that holds the ball up well. And, I don't think there's a single player who doesn't get the best. And, he's one of those people that plays his part in the team and obviously does what the manager asks him to do.
Yeah. From what I've seen, he's old school, and it could work really well with Billy Waters as the kind of old school big man, little man partnership.
Yeah, like the Patterson.
Click, then great, and he's pulling defenders away. He's so big and bulky that it's the defenders are easily drawn to him. And if that gives Billy the half yard he needs to get free, then it could work. You saw signs of it against Alty, but not.
Yeah, he should have scored that.
Little seeds.
Mm-hmm. He should have probably scored that chance, but every striker misses them sort of chances. I think we haven't seen the best of Durnley yet, to be honest. Now, he always seems to be scoring goals that don't really matter, not crucial goals, so they're going a bit under the radar, like Wrexham, a consolation goal. Also, we've got we had Wrexham, we had the Weymouth game where he got the second goal. He scored another as well, I believe, but he's coming off the bench, and he could be someone who could potentially start tomorrow going forward if he decides to leave Joey McDonough out of the side. He could be a key part, a key factor towards this end of the season, couldn't he, Zach Durnley?
Yeah, to me, I think he's a bit of a wild card to throw in there as a starting player right now. If anything, rather than replacing Jerry, I'd probably consider him a bit further back. One player that was finding it hard, I think, to make an impact on the game on Friday was Harvey Gilmore. I think that's kind of been represented across the season in terms of assists and goals. I think he's working hard, but it's just not quite falling for him. So to me, tomorrow I'd potentially think about taking him out of the team and maybe putting in Slew if he can find some form that he saw in the other season, or Zach might be an option there as a bit of a wild card. But yeah, we'll see what happens with that one.
Yeah, there's a lot of... Tomorrow's going to be a huge game when you look at Chesterfield. We've had a Chesterfield fan on tonight, so I don't want to talk a bit too much about Chesterfield as a whole, but they're going to be a very good side tomorrow. We know that they like in the World Cup, they like to play football. It is key that we turn up tomorrow, and hopefully the crowd gets behind them. Now, I want to talk a bit about potential lineups, etc. Would you play Green still? Now, I know he went off, didn't he, because of, I think he looked a little tired and a little lethargic towards the end of the game. he might bring Summerfield back into the side tomorrow, mightn't he?
Yeah. What do you think, Rob?
Yeah.
I think Green's a great player. I think we've missed him when he's out injured. I think he makes a huge difference to the team when he plays. And I think if possible, it'd be great for him to start. He's a really, really good quality player, one of our best players this season, I think.
Yeah, I think Green and Spence that's the reason a lot of the early season form came out of those two guys. Like, they really complement each other well. I think Green he was getting leggy and tired, and probably while wanting to save him for tomorrow's game to start him alongside Spence again. So hopefully that is a partnership that's going to be able to be the backbone for for the run in and then the playoffs.
Yeah, it is coming to the breaking point of the season now. There's not many games left at all. I think there's 6 games left now, I believe. And we are looking, with more or less, I think mathematically we've secured a playoff spot now. Some people may disagree. We'll probably need a win and win the playoffs now. We need to now be going for that second or third spot, and that's going to be crucial towards the end of the season. That home tie will be probably the breaking point if we're going to go up or if we're not. We've seen in previous years with other clubs, when you finish 5th, 6th, 7th, 4th, bit of a weird order, that no particular order, but we've seen they seem to struggle in the playoffs because they have to play more games and they're always playing away from home. Now, Halifax this season especially has been that team where we're always a lot better at home than what we are away from home. Like we've seen, we've lost to Maidenhead away, Kingsland away, where we haven't really lost to a porous bottom half side in the league at home all season. So we have to be aiming for that second or third spot in the playoffs, because if we're having to go to Wrexham away or Solihull Moors away or Chesterfield away, I can only see one winner, to be honest. I think it is going to go in the home team's favour. But on the other alternative, if we're playing at home because we've got second or third, you'd expect us to win that and go to London, and then anything could happen in the final. Rob, how important is that for you?
I think we have to look at the context of where we were last season to where we are this season. Wherever we finish, if we get in the playoffs, it's an improvement on last season, and that's great. Of course, it's a lottery who you play. Referees on the day might decide the outcome with their decisions. It's real lottery at the end of the season. But if we can get that home game, you're right. Our home form has been much better than our away form. But we can beat anybody on our day. I'm certain of that. And
playing more games. That's the thing. Like, the difference is two wins away from the Football League. If you're finishing 7th from 4th to 7th, 3 games away from the Football League, we probably had with a harder opponent in the semis. Like you said, we could beat anybody on our day. We could beat Wrexham on our day. But Rob, you've gone. Luke, I don't know if you went. I went personally when I went to Wrexham away. I wouldn't want to be going to the racecourse. I'd take Wrexham at home, but I would not want to be going to the racecourse again at the end of the season in the playoffs, because I could only see one winner on that day with the crowd getting behind Wrexham. It would be a hard place to go and get a result there. Where if we're playing at home, even against Wrexham, I'd fancy our chances with our crowd getting behind us and our home form this season. So yeah, I think it is crucial that we get that second or third spot. And I asked Shaymen Stats this. Luke, I'll come to you first. Do you think we're actually good enough to get promoted this season? Do you think we have the potential, we have the quality in the squad, or do you reckon we'll freeze in the playoffs, do you think, or towards the end of the season? Do you think the squad's got the ability compared to Wrexham's, Chesterfield's, to actually win the playoffs?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. No, I think that the season's proven that we do have the credentials to go up. Like, you don't play 40 games where it's going to be in the finishing the playoffs and not have the quality to go up. There's no fluke about where they are now. I think it has been done on a backbone of beating the teams that we should beat and raising our game enough against the teams around us. But then, I think that Wrexham game maybe put the fear of it into a lot of fans to think, oh, wait, that extra little quality, do we have it? And that's a fair enough question to have. Bear in mind how much money Wrexham spent on players, and when you see Stockport scoring 4 or 5 goals every week. So are we as good as them? Absolutely not. Are we good enough to go up? absolutely yes. So I think it's absolutely vital, as you say, to finish second or third, to get that one home game. And then, the final, as Rob could say, anything could happen on the day.
I think
so. Yeah, we've kind of almost, first aim as well, I'd probably say, is get enough points to stay up, which we smashed out of the park in October, whenever it was. And then to get in the playoffs, which I'm, as you say, mathematically and kind of subconsciously, I think we're there now, which is an absolutely fantastic achievement.
I just, I think that's something that I'd love to see. Like, I haven't had too many experiences. I had the National League North, opportunity where I got to watch Halifax in the playoffs. I was a little too young for like Brackley and that, so I've not really seen us in the playoffs in a big game like that. And that's something that I'm looking forward to, no matter where we finish, being able to go to Chesterfield and being a sole out away end, because we probably will, because it's the playoffs. And that's something that I am looking forward to now. But I think personally we need to get second or third to have that opportunity to go up. And one thing about that Wrexham game when we were out last, we didn't have Summerfield and Green. And when we got one of them players, we do tend to struggle on that. For example, Maidenhead away, Green was injured, we ended up losing. Bournemouth at home, neither of them were in the team until I think Summerfield came on. We struggled. Wrexham away, we struggled when we didn't have one of them players in the team. I think Yeovil away was another game as well where we didn't have, I think Summerfield might have been in the team. We tend to struggle when we don't have that box-to-box midfielder who pulls the strings in the midfield. And that's probably one position why we struggled at Wrexham. But yeah, when I look at the upcoming games, Aldershot home, Yeovil at home, they're winnable. When you look at both of their sides, not too much to play for. Maybe Aldershot relegation, etc. Probably not. They're all winnable games now towards the end of the season. I think something that Wilde said in his interview to the Courier was he'll take a point away from home and then win at home, and that's something that's crucial. Like Alty away, it's a good point. I feel when you look at it as a whole. Now when I look back on it, as long as we get a result tomorrow, at least a point, that's a good point because it's Altrincham away, Altrincham on good form. You'd expect there's an opportunity for Altrincham to cause a little bit of an upset. And we managed to get a point there, and realistically, yes, we probably should have got 3 points. But come the end of the season, if we're second or third, we won't care, to be honest. Chesterfield at home, it's one of them games where you take a point because it keeps Chesterfield further back behind you. And you create a bit of a gap then. A win would be perfect for our second or third spot because it more or less means we're in a very, very, very good position for second or third if we do win tomorrow. But but we can't. I don't know. I just don't think we can afford to lose tomorrow. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I don't think it's dead if we lose tomorrow. I don't think we should give up just yet. Because as you said, there's a lot of winnable games there against mid-table teams that have maybe not as motivated or shouldn't have the mentality that Town should have towards the end of the season. It would be a bit of a hammer blow to that second or third ambition that we've got. But let's obviously hope for the best. But I don't think we should be too disappointed if we do lose. It's not the end of the world.
Yeah. Well, what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I think it's a big game. I think the most important thing tomorrow is get as many home fans down there as possible.
Yeah.
Support the club and not just sort of think, well, I'll support the club in the playoffs, but support the club to get to the playoffs. That's really important. Get every man and his dog, get down the share. Yeah. Get behind the
Yeah. We talked about a man and his dog. I actually saw a guy with his dog in the south stand against Solihull Moors the other week. So I don't know if dogs aren't allowed at football games.
It's a guide dog.
Yeah, I don't know, to be honest. It was like a cocker spaniel or something. So I don't know how he's got that in. But yeah, we'll head over to the chat now. I think this is what Yorkie said. Now, shout out to him. He's watching this on his birthday. So fair play to Yorkie, who is actually watching this. I think he's 27. So happy 27th birthday to you. Realistically, most of us are aware that catching Stockport now is slipping away pretty fast. Now it's about getting as many points as possible to secure second or third, which we are more than capable to do. Yeah, over the course of the season, we've been the most consistent team towards the top of the table. We've been second or third, slipped into fourth or fifth slightly, but not for long. Stockport, they've been lower down the table. They've come good towards the end of the season. we've been the most consistent team towards the top of the table, and we rightfully deserve to get second or third. And yeah, we are more than capable to get it. I think, how many points would you say we need now to get second or third with 6 games remaining? Luke, I'll come to you first.
A maths question on a Sunday night on Easter Sunday. I don't know. I think another 4 wins. I think the faster the games are running out, the better it suits us. Like, we're not in a position where we need to win and we're chasing, which is where we were this time last season. So that does give us that advantage. There's teams playing against each other. To be fair, I was hoping probably for a Wrexham win against Solihull, which feels a bit dirty, but I was hoping for a Wrexham win to, let Wrexham finish second. It's fine, but then give us that third. So, but we've got Stockport last game of the season. Even that, Stockport probably won the league by then, and that's might be winnable. Who knows on the last game if we need that those points. So that goes back to my previous answer. Really, like, if we lose tomorrow, it's not the end of the world. We only need 4 or 5 wins, I think, and that'll be enough. Yeah,
that'd be good. Rob, how many do you think we need?
I'll go for 12 points, Luke. Because 6 games, Manchester keeps talking about 2 points again. If we got that, we actually would be less than 2 points overall per game average, but I think that'd be enough. And we're more than capable of it, aren't we?
Yeah, we definitely are. And when you think of the course of the season, how well we've played. Now, I want to talk a bit about how we reckon we'll set up tomorrow. How do you think Pete Wells will play the game tomorrow? Now, we've seen, especially certain away games, we've gone to Wrexham, we've sat back, we've allowed Wrexham to have the ball. At home, we've seemed to like to keep a bit more of the ball, and it seems to be that second half when you're usually shooting towards the south stand when we like to get our goals because of the atmosphere, etc. How do you think we'll set up tomorrow? Do you think we'll set up trying to play it safe in the first half and then just go at them in the second half when we're probably shooting towards the south stand? Because all 4 stands are open tomorrow. That's something that I'd like to point out as well. Yeah. So Chesterfield, if they're shooting towards the Chesterfield fans, that may go in their favour in the first half, etc.
Yeah. To me, I think if there's an early goal, that's going to open the game up. But I think I echo what you said earlier about I think it's going to be tight and cagey. It might even have 0-0 written all over it. I think at this point in the season, with Chesterfield and us being in where we are, we'd probably both take a point, and that probably won't lead to an amazing spectacle. So I know this isn't a great sales tool for the game. It should be a good atmosphere. Great to have all 4 stands open. But absolutely, there's no chance Pete Wells going gung ho here, or if it's 0-0 with 85 minutes, I really can't see us throwing Sam Johnson forward for corners and stuff like that. Like, I think they'd both take a point. One thing I was thinking at the Alta game, if you really want, this might be something for playoffs or if personnel dictates later in the season, but it's such a shame to see Bradbury out of the team when he's had such a good season, but you can't drop Deborah and you can't drop Meyer either. And one thing we did lack on Friday was width. I don't think the wingers, Warren on the right and Swaby Nevin on the left did enough, but they had a lot of defensive responsibilities. So it might be something that it may be considering if we do end up playing away at a bigger team, playing those 3 centre backs with Ben, Senior, Warren, Swaby Nevin, and just giving them a little bit more license to overlap and produce some balls in. But for the time being, I think it'll play pretty safe, and we won't see a massive amount of change from Friday's team at Alty.
Yeah, I think from my perspective, I would probably drop Swaby Nevin, and nothing against his performance. I just think someone like Bradbury, it's a bit more safe, in my opinion, going into this Chesterfield game. It has got 0-0 written all over it when you think of the build-up to the game, both set of supporters. It's on BT Sport.
Especially BT Sport.
Yeah, you could just see a 0-0 or possibly Chesterfield just absolutely batter us, and that wouldn't be great either. But it's gonna be an interesting game tomorrow. Now I want to have a bit of an estimation here from both of you. Now we don't want to. This is something I don't want to do because we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, I believe, on an alternative podcast. We talked about looking at the games coming up, like away attendances, estimating how many we'll take away. We looked at the home games coming up, estimating them games. And a couple of weeks ago, I remember, I think Shaymen Stats, he was on earlier on the podcast. I think he said we could be seeing 4,500 to 5,000 against Chesterfield. And this was a couple of weeks ago. We're now getting closer. and it is seeming more likely that crowds haven't increased over the past couple of weeks that we're going to get that. Now, for me personally, I don't want to put it too high because we haven't seen the exceptional crowds that we have seen in the past at the Shea, like in the playoffs. I know it's not a playoffs game tomorrow, but it is a big game. We've seen like Wrexham at home on Tuesday night, 2.2k Halifax fans, 2,200 Halifax fans, with like over 1,000 Wrexham. That was a Tuesday night match. We've then seen Weymouth at home after an impressive Notts County result when we were 2-0 down 1-3-2. That attracted a lot of people to come. 2.2k Halifax fans. That was a good crowd as well. Grimsby at home, I can't say this for exact. I think there were just over 2,000 Halifax fans. It's hard to predict how many Halifax fans will be there tomorrow because we are finding it very hard to attract people to come down to the Shea. Now, Rob, I'll start with you because you are pretty, you're pretty impressive with your estimations that I've seen. Although your Wrexham one was a little bit out, and surprisingly, you over-predicted that. You said I think you said 300 you'd expect there, and we only took 220. But there were a lot of problems online, etc. with that, so that's why a lot of people didn't go to that game. And BT Sport as well. Rob, how many Halifax fans do you reckon will be there tomorrow?
I think there'll be just about 2,000 there tomorrow, so I'm expecting a crowd of 3,117.
Yeah. Oh, good prediction. Did you guess the crowd, Rob?
I do occasionally, yeah, because tomorrow the sports club are doing the match ball sponsorship, and as part of that day, they come round and ask you to guess the crowd. So if anybody goes to 3,117 tomorrow before I write it down, there'll be trouble.
Yeah. Luke, what would you put it for tomorrow?
Yeah, exactly the same. I was thinking 2,000. That's exactly the number I was thinking of. Yeah, compare bank holiday month, 2001. Yeah,
I want to predict higher because we all know realistically we should be getting higher no matter how much the club advertise, the fixture, etc. We should be getting more for this game.
Luke, I've got to say that there's not a single person that doesn't know the club's playing tomorrow. It's not about putting posters up in the town centre. If we're playing the playoff game tomorrow, they'll all be there. And it'll be the same advertising. It's just about getting down and supporting the club. That's all it's about. And it's nothing to do with posters in the town centre or bus stops or whatever. Everybody knows when the club's playing. Everybody knows how big the game is. People have a choice, and they should get down there and support the club.
I think for me, 2,500. I think tomorrow. I think there'll be a few more in tomorrow. Hopefully, like yourself, Luke. Like I know you don't live local to Halifax, so you only come to certain games. But I'm guessing you've ticked off Chesterfield at home and thought, yeah, I've got to come to that game because it's such a big game. People like yourselves who don't live locally will probably make sure that and prioritise this game to come to. So you'd expect a few more Halifax fans there. A lot of Shaymen down south people are coming. I'm hoping Mark Shaw's coming tomorrow. I don't know if he is. He probably won't be, but it'd be great to see him because of the atmosphere he can make at the Shea with him living down in Oxford. But yeah, hopefully there'll be a few more there tomorrow than what we've seen this season. So yeah, I'm hoping for a good crowd tomorrow. It should be good. Now, before we do end the podcast, I'll ask for your score predictions. Rob, what's your score prediction?
I'm going for 4-2 to the Shaymen. That's because the last time the four sides were open, I think we played Grimsby, we won that game and Grimsby won the league that year. Everybody thought we'll get battered. We're 3-0 at half time, and I'm going for the same result again tomorrow, 4-2 to the Shaymen.
Luke, what's your prediction?
We agreed on the attendance, but we don't agree on the score. I'm going 1-1 or 0-0 for this one.
0-0. I'm gonna agree with you, to be honest. I reckon 0-0 tomorrow. Now, before I do go, Phil. Rob, I don't know if it's been decided yet, but I'm dining personally tomorrow. I'll be dining, and I'll hopefully make my way into the South Stand when kickoff happens for atmosphere. Me and my family will be dining tomorrow. Now, I believe that Phil Merrifield posted that he had some spare dining tickets for tomorrow. Now, Rob, have they been taken up?
We've got one taken. There's still one going. So if anybody has a last-minute change of heart and thinks they'd like to join us tomorrow, give us a shout on our socials. We'll sort it out. It's really good value. Match ball sponsorships. Really good 3-course meal before the game. Chain coffee at half time. Your programs, team sheets, opportunity to guess the crowd. You know, and not only that, mix of us guys. You know, Sports Club are great there. You know, come and have a word. It's brilliant.
Yeah, that's great to hear. Yeah, so I'll put that out on the Instagram account as well for anyone that might want to dine tomorrow. I'll try and make sure Pete Wild gets one of these. My camera's not the best for tomorrow. Hopefully he does like it. But yeah, it'd be great to see as many Halifax fans down there tomorrow as possible. If you are watching this and you're deciding, like, thinking, should I go tomorrow, should I not? I would suggest going tomorrow. It's going to be a huge game. It's going to be, no matter how many Halifax fans are there, it'll be a cracking atmosphere, I can tell you that now. There's a lot of plans, like we said earlier with Ronan, about South Stand Loyal. There's a lot of things that are going to be happening tomorrow. Come down to the Shea, support the lads. If you're a fan of other clubs, because I've noticed that we've got the odd Leeds United fan or Huddersfield fan who watches this podcast. If you're a fan of them, and I know Huddersfield are playing tomorrow, but if you decide you want to change, come watch Halifax Town, because it's going to be a very, very good game tomorrow and entertaining tomorrow. So, yeah, Rob, I appreciate you coming on tonight. Luke, I appreciate you coming on tonight. I know you muted your mic, but yeah, thank you for coming on. And yeah, I'll see you both tomorrow, and hopefully next time we do a podcast, which I believe will be Friday when I do one, it'll be on the back of a Halifax Town win, and we'll sustain a place in second or third. Up the Shaymen.
Enjoy the game, guys. Cheers.
Yep.
4-2. Come on.
Glory shone around upon FC